Warhammer, and especially Warhammer 40k, is getting incredibly popular due to video games, which is incredibly awesome. I have got the new episode of one of my podcasts coming out today as well at the same time, so do check that out as I talk about should you move from playing the games into playing Warhammer in the real world. I mean, spoiler alert, yes, you should. It's incredibly fun, but obviously it's going to rinse you of all of your money. But that aside, I thought I'd put together a personal list of my top 10 Warhammer games covering 40k, Age of Sigmar, and Old World, etc. So just bear in mind it's a personal list, not the official list. You may agree, you may disagree, that's absolutely fine. Please pop your favourite games down below. And we're starting off with Mechanicus. Now, Mechanicus is incredibly cool because obviously it follows the Adeptus Mechanicus instead of Space Marines, which is usually the norm. And it's pretty cool. It obviously has a decent story revolving around the Necrons, and it's got randomized rewards and all the different dungeons that you can choose. You can customize your Mechanicus as well, which is pretty nifty. And that you have these different advisors that give you different will suggest maybe you should do that, maybe you shouldn't. The longer you spend in dungeons or the more you awaken the Necrons in their tombs makes the game a lot more difficult. It's obviously turn-based combat, and you can just send servitors to die, which is absolutely fine by me because I am that way inclined. Now, I don't know too much about the Adeptus Mechanicus as a whole. All I know is that they worship the Omnissiah, the machine gods and whatnot, and they believe that there's spirits within the machinery and stuff. I'm not a super nerd on the lore. I'm more of I love playing the games kind of person. There are people out there who do some very cool in-depth videos on the lore of Warhammer, so do check those out. They are pretty cool and pretty savage for the most part. But Adeptus Mechanicus definitely makes the list, and especially as the second game is on the horizon, I'm hoping that they've just taken everything that they've done here and just improve upon it and make it better and more immersive. And yeah, but Adeptus Mechanicus is still, this game is still one of the best out there as a whole. It's a really good Warhammer game and definitely one of the best. Up next is Bolt Gun. Now this one is a lot of fun. It's referred to as a boomer shooter, which I hate that term because it's obviously essentially a Doom style game based within the Warhammer 40k universe, but also more specifically it's based between Space Marine and Space Marine II, which is really cool. I didn't realize that until recently, but it is. It's taken place on the same planet that Titus was on in the Space Marine, and you're fighting the forces of chaos which came through at the end of that game. Excuse me. It's really fun. It's, if you like Doom and shooters like that, that's what it is essentially. There is DLC for the game as well, which adds in extra stuff. There's all types of other game modes. There's bosses to fight. There's a whole host of weapons that you can collect, and the graphics are really cool and retro-esque, and it's just a really fun boomer shooter. I hate the term boomer shooter, but that's what people call it. But Bolt Gun is definitely worth grabbing. It's an incredibly fun game. I am hoping for a sequel at some point because I had a great time playing through it. And yeah, apart from the fact that it loses frames on the Steam Deck, which is bizarre, but even on PC, I don't know why it does do that, because it shouldn't. Not to a drastic extent. It doesn't go below 60. Not that kind of bad, but it's just, yeah, for some reason there's something weird happening there. But besides that, Bolt Gun is a very fun game and definitely worth getting.
Unstoppable.
Chaos Gate Demon Hunters is an incredibly fun turn-based tactical RPG where you take control of the Grey Knights, which are really cool. And just FYI, if you see any Grey Knights come to take out any Xenos in your vicinity, they're more than likely going to take you out too, so just just bear that one in mind. Now, this game is incredibly cool, especially if you like games like XCOM, which is similar to what it is, but instead of just Marines missing nearly every single one of your shots, you're rocking in with loads of different Grey Knights, which is really cool, and equip them with all manner of different weapons, the melee kind and also of the ranged kind, and they also have special abilities as well, which you can use with the psychic attacks. There's also like you can do like precision targeting, which is really cool. You're going up against the forces of chaos, of course, and they change depending on how long you take to do things. There's a big map where you can fly around in your ship, and you can upgrade your ship and just apply upgrades to things. So if you love upgrading stuff, leveling up characters, and obviously each character has their skill trees, but there is permadeath, so you gotta bear witness to that one. People will get injured and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. It's not the best in the genre of the kind of game it is, but for being a Warhammer game and just graphically and how fun it is, and the environments are pretty cool, and if you have the DLC you can get yourself a Dreadnought, which is really cool. It's a really fun game, and there's nothing quite like smashing through a door or slow motion throwing a grenade like a Grey Knight. It's really, really good.
Slight wounds. Reinforcements are coming. Of course.
Crush them!
Warhammer 40k Darktide is a cooperative first-person shooter where you choose which class you're going to be, one of 4, and then you go out on all these different missions on a hive world, which is really cool, dark and freaky for the most part. And you melee your way through hordes of enemies, but you can also shoot through hordes of enemies and different little mini bosses and the occasional big boss as well, with different objectives, and some levels cross over with one another and all that, which is pretty cool. Now, Darktide is very similar to Vermentide, of course, because it's the same people. So it's just a 40k version of it. It's not as good as Vermentide II, but Darktide is still pretty good, and it keeps getting better. They recently just had the Visions update, which brings in the Mortis trials, which is pretty cool. So do check out the game on that. That was a free update, and they just put in a new game mode, and the game is getting much better. There's now actually a reason to play the game, as there's now tons to unlock just by playing, not just by throwing money at the game, because originally that was my main issue with the game, was that there was really nothing to work towards, nothing to gain by playing, just besides leveling up and shooting stuff, which I know, call me a stickler, but I like that kind of thing. That's kind of why I don't play Squad. Because Squad, there's no Steam achievements, there's no ranking up, there's nothing. It's just playing the game. Now, people love Squad, and you can love Squad, more power to you. But this is why I play Howl Let Loose instead of Squad, because Howl Let Loose, there's Steam achievements, and you can level up and unlock new stuff for the different loadouts. Nothing too extreme, you don't get weird Fortnite level stuff, like skins for your weapons, but it's much better. But here with Darktide, there's now a lot to work towards. There's a lot of content with the game. There's a decent end game as well, and the game is still very challenging, even on just standard difficulties. And it's very heavily populated. You'll always find games in seconds, no problem there. But Darktide definitely makes the list, as it is a really cool first-person shooter.
Grendel's a secretive one, no question about that.
An Inquisitor must acquire forbidden knowledge. The Queen might remain blessedly ignorant. Beware the hound!
Outgun!
I am your blade and shield. Trust me. I shall not come. The other side awaits.
Up next is Rogue Trader. Rogue Trader is a really cool CRPG, basically like Baldur's Gate 3, so, to use Baldur's Gate 3 as a reference because that's the most popular CRPG out at the moment, and Rogue Trader is that, but in the 40k universe. It doesn't have the polish of Baldur's Gate 3 or a lot of the interactivity, but what it does have is an absolute boatload of content. You can go to multiple different planets, and as the Rogue Trader you have a lot of power. You have your ship with you as well. If you have the DLC, you can then explore more of the ship, which is really cool because these ships are huge. They're not like smaller freights like the Millennium Falcon. They are massive. They are like huge flying cities. They are gigondo. And your characters, you can recruit characters from all over the galaxy. There is, of course, a storyline. There is also turn-based ship combat as well as the normal turn-based combat on the ground. You can equip your character and the other characters with different weapons. There's manner of different ways you can build the characters as you level up through the game as well. There's loads of side quests and side stuff that for you to check out. There is obviously romantic relationships that you can chase. Unfortunately, a couple of them you can't for lore reasons, which does suck the donkey dick, but that's fine because they're keeping the lore intact, which is really cool. The game is a decent length and obviously goes by an act structure. So Act 1 is like a lot of freedom. Act 2, I believe, is very restrictive. From what I remember, you're taken prisoner, and then Act 3 you can go out and do some more exploring again. But it is a very solid CRPG, and I hope to God we get some form of sequel or more DLC for it, because there's a lot of potential here. Even though it's kind of along the same lines as Pathfinder, so there is a lot of reading to be done, but there is also a decent amount of voice acting as well.
Feel nothing, fear nothing. Rejoice in battle! As the Emperor commands.
Eddie is the tread of his faithful.
Up next is one of my nostalgic favourites, and that's Dawn of War 2. Now, it goes without saying that Dawn of War 1 can also fit here too, and I could make an argument for a lot of people where Dawn of War 1 would be the best Warhammer game for you to play, and I agree. Unfortunately though, because I am that much more of a modern achievement whore, because Dawn of War 1 doesn't have Steam achievements, I don't play it nowhere near enough, which is a shame, but it is very good. However, here with Dawn of War 2, there's loads, especially with the DLCs and the Last Stand Horde mode, and the multiplayer is still active, and it's really cool. It's a very fun RTS game. It's not turn-based, of course. It's a lot more streamlined than Dawn of War 1. Dawn of War 1 is your typical like Age of Empires-esque Command and Conquer style strategy game where you place all your buildings and recruit all your troops, whereas Dawn of War 2, although you can do that during the game, main like skirmish modes and whatnot, not to the point where you can just keep applying different buildings and different troops and all that kind of shit. You can obviously spawn troops, but it's I don't know how to explain it. It's more Company of Heroes than it is Age of Empires. I hope that makes sense. But Dawn of War 2 is really fun. Again, the characters level up and you can equip them with different weapons and items as they're going through. The main story is pretty cool for the main game and the DLCs, and the characters are really cool. Cutscenes are really awesome. You're going up against some great enemies, and well, back then the Eldar, which I know the Eldari, and the Tyranids and whatnot. So it's a really cool game. And nostalgically, when I bought, so obviously I had a PC that my parents bought me a long time ago. This is going over 20 years ago now. But when I started working and I bought my own PC in like 2007, 8's time, Dawn of War 2 was what I wanted with it. And I bought Dawn of War 2 back when you bought PC games physically, and I bought my PC, got it home, installed it, and I had an absolute whale of a time for months after that, which was great. But Dawn of War 2 is definitely well up there, and I had to have that on this list.
Prepare for low visibility.
And up next in 4th place, and this may shock a lot of people, and that is Space Marine 2. Now, Space Marine 2 is a fantastic game. It's a great game. I love it. I play it now, especially now as recently the prestige ranks have been unlocked and you get to fight the Trigon in the latest PvE game mode. And the Trigon is an absolute beast of a boss. It kicked the crap out of me and my friend, and we were playing it just on normal difficulty just to get to grips with it again, because obviously we put the game down for a while. But Space Marine 2 has a very fun gameplay loop. It has a really cool story, if a little short, but still really good. And I think the final at the end of the game with all the Ultramarines and marching forward, it's really awesome. It's really cool, and we need more of that. Now, I know Space Marine 3 is in the works, thankfully, and I know that we are getting more content for Space Marine 2. And Space Marine 1 is still worth playing as well, definitely worth playing. So obviously I put Space Marine 2 on the list over Space Marine 1, because Space Marine 2 is obviously Space Marine 1 amped up to 11, and we are getting a Horde mode for Space Marine 2, so I can't wait for that to come out as well. But Space Marine 2 is a ton of fun and just has great combat, really cool environments. The PvE stuff is the highlight. The PvP stuff is fine, it's cool, but people online just it's not the same anymore. So I'm quite happy to just do the PvE stuff, which is mainly where I sit. I've got all the Steam achievements for the PvP, so I don't need to play that part no more. But if you want cooperative action or even solo action, because you can go at it with bots as well, just bearing in mind on the harder difficulties the bots will get absolutely rinsed. It's Space Marine 2 is definitely worth the play.
This is Scipius. Load a Nova Cannon implosive warhead onto the supply train.
Acknowledge. Commencing transfer protocols. Attention. Services not found. Operators required to complete the transfer process.
Firing now!
And at 3rd place, and rocking into 3rd place most recently, is Battle Sector. Battle Sector is essentially the closest you can get to playing 40k in video game form. It's turn-based, of course, but you take it in turns with the enemy team, so you move all of your troops, and then it's the enemy team's turn, and there are objectives to capture, loads of different things. There is a game mode where you can choose which faction you want to play as, and it's like kind of like a supremacy mode, which it's fine, it's serviceable. It could be much better. There's no galactic conquest of Star Wars Battlefront, that's for sure, but it does its job. And yes, because it's a Warhammer game and a strategy game, there is loads of DLC for you to buy. Now, I picked them all up over time, and when they were on offer, so I have all the DLC for Battle Sector. Apparently they're still working on it, and they're working on new single player campaign stuff as well, because Battle Sector's just recently had a few really decent updates, adding in extra stuff, adding in obviously the Imperial Guard came in, or the Astra Militarum, sorry, and they had a few tweaks done to them, which is really cool. But Battle Sector has some really cool planets, has some really cool attacks and engagements that you can have. The animations and the details on the troops and all that is really, really cool. Yes, of course, because I am a real-life Tau player at 40k, I am playing as the Tau here. Please do not have a pop. But Battle Sector is definitely in the top 3, hands down. I have a lot of fun with Battle Sector, and I find it incredibly addictive. And if you want to get as close as you can to playing Warhammer 40k without shelling out hundreds of pounds or dollars, then Battle Sector is where you go.
Firing now!
Firing on target. Someone give me a read. This war, he has
In second place, we have Vermentide II. Vermentide II is incredibly addictive. It has a really cool PvP game mode as well, which I get my ass absolutely handed to me, because obviously there are people that just play that game mode and they are really good at it. And there is a whole lot of salt that gets thrown around, because if you're on the losing team, everybody blames everybody else. There's no good game scenario. It's just there are people that rage quit. The PvP mode is something you can miss entirely. But besides that, you have other game modes as well. You have the roguelike game mode, which is incredibly cool, that you can just munch through. You can unlock multiple different cosmetics for your character as well. Yes, you can throw real money at the game if you want to, but you really do not need to. There are 15 different talent trees. There's like well over 50 odd weapons. There's obviously only the 5 characters to choose from, and some of their like I don't know what you call them, class branches. Let's call it that. You do have to buy, unfortunately, but you can get the full complete edition of the game all the time, dirt cheap. So, and if this game ever goes on offer for less than a tenner with all of its DLC, grab it. It is worth it. This game is worth 25 to 30 quid. And it was worth it at full price when it came out, and it's definitely worth it now, especially with the roguelike mode, which obviously is different every time you go through it, and you unlock rewards through that, but you can also level your characters up through that. There's obviously the normal adventures that you can go through, which is the normal game modes, which are really cool. There are loads of people still playing Vermintide 2 today, and most of the people I meet on the PvE game mode are really cool people. And as long as you all work together and stick together as a team, you don't ever want to get caught on your own, or you'll get captured by the rat catcher, or just attacked by an assassin rat. It's really cool. If you like the Left 4 Dead style game mode, but more hack and slashy, you do get ranged weapons, of course, but ammo is limited. But if you prefer just going around hacking and slashing a load of Skaven up, then definitely Vermintide 2 is the way to go. Also, it's worth pointing out that Thatcher, the developers, they keep putting in new free levels and new free stuff, and they're still updating the game even today, which is really cool. So you've got to commend the developer for doing that, because Vermintide 2 doesn't have a battle pass. Vermintide 2 is just a really fun game with a really solid gameplay loop that's also linked to your skill. The better you get, the harder difficulties you'll be able to take on, because you'll get the better you get, the more you can handle just the situations. It's all down to your skill for the most part. Now, I'm not that good. I can get by, but there are some people who are just godlike at the game. But seriously, Vermintide 2 is still one of the best Warhammer games out there.
Stop shooting me! I've lost mates to Chaos Warriors. I don't want to lose more. Help! Out to its side!
And finally, taking top place is Total War Warhammer 3. And I highly recommend and advise that you get Total War Warhammer 1, all of its DLC, and Total War Warhammer 2 and all of its DLC, because all of the DLCs and stuff carry on over into Total War Warhammer 3. And yes, Total War Warhammer 3 has a decent size of DLCs as well. And I understand that it's all a load of DLCs, and it does suck. Unfortunately, it's the world we live in, so you just got to take it up the tailpipe. But if you have all of the DLCs, you have got so much content in Total War Warhammer 3. You have all these different factions, all these different ways to play, multiple ways to play within each faction itself. There is so much to sink your teeth into with Total War Warhammer 3, and it's just such a great time. Even if you don't participate in the actual battling, just going around the overworld map and just taking over towns and managing your empire and creating diplomatic relations with other people and trying to wage war with other people, it just gets all confusing, really, doesn't it? But it's just really, really cool. There is, of course, the multiplayer section of the game, which I'll be honest, I don't touch. I do play cooperative with some other people, but your Immortal Empires game mode can just take forever. But with the Immortal Empires game mode, you have got countless amount of hours of just absolute fun. If you like the Total War franchise or strategy games in general, Total War Warhammer 3 should definitely be up your alley. But it is definitely my favorite Warhammer video game, and it's one of those games where once I start playing it, I can't stop because of how good it is. It's really, really cool, and I hope we get a 40k version, a Total War Warhammer 40k. I would love that. I think that would work really, really well, but who knows? There's apparently supposed to be a Star Wars Total War game coming out at some point soon, which, again, that sounds pretty cool. I'd be very interested in that, but with Total War Warhammer 3, I don't know what more I can say about it than just check it out, try it, go check out a load of videos on YouTube about it. It's really cool. It's very in-depth, more in-depth than I can get into right here, but there are so many different ways for you to play the game. It's not just make an army and go and attack people. Of course you do that, but there are things that you can do, like, for example, if you're the Skaven, if you're playing as a Skaven, for example, and you choose Clan Eshin, which is who I choose, and I have a Clan Eshin army in the real world, they're stealthy and more assassins, so you can send out assassins to try and assassinate other leaders in other places, which is really cool. You can also, as the Skaven, you can burrow underneath big cities and start bringing them down from within. There's so much that you can do, and that's just a small teeny weeny little bit of it. If you're obviously playing as the Nurgle, you can spread disease and corruption around. If you're playing as any of the Chaos people, you're collecting skulls, you're killing people, you have to keep killing people to keep a meter up high. There's so much. There's too much for me to go into for just the end of this video, trust me. It's a really good game, and just basically is my favourite Warhammer game. But thank you very much for listening to me waffle on. You can probably tell I didn't get a script down for this one because I've been quite busy my end. But I've had this video, I've had all the footage for weeks now, and I needed to just get the video out, so I just thought I'll just waffle on about the games, because why not? People love hearing a British guy from the West Country waffle. But thank you very much for watching, and please let me know down below what your top 10 games are as well. And as always, thank you very much for watching.
Our bondage will not endure. When the blade strikes! There